Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing wonderful this evening and you're relaxing, all your holiday shopping is done, or you're just spending time with your family. My name is Nirva LaFortune. I'm a city council person and I represent Ward 3. And this week we are going to celebrate the winter solstice with a story time every evening at 5:30. I want to first thank all the librarians at Providence Community Library, which has a special place in my heart, for helping me pick out such a diverse selection of books to read. And tonight, we're going to start off with In the Month of Kislev, A Story of Hanukkah by Nina Jaffe and illustrated by Louise August. And we all know that Hanukkah ended last Friday, so this is a great book to start off with. In the Month of Kislev. And they dedicated this book to my parents, Grace and Mark, with love, and Jay. To my mom, Tanta, Peter, Danny, Rainey, and Roy, with love, L.A. Louise August, who is the illustrator, and NJ is Nina Jaffe. All right, so we're going to start. Once in Poland, there was a peddler named Mendel. He and his wife, Rivka, and their 3 children, Leah, Gittel, and Devora, lived in a small hut at the edge of their town. Mendel worked hard, traveling to villages near and far, selling the pots and pans, handkerchiefs, and trinkets that he carried in his great sack. Rivka worked hard, too, to keep their children clothed and fed, but it wasn't easy on the little they had. In that same town, there lived a lumber merchant named Fivel. He too had 3 children, but Fivel's wife had 2 servants to clean the house, and he himself had a coachman who drove him from one town to the next to see his customers. Fivel was never happy to give charity. If a beggar came to his door, he would always find some excuse not to give alms. "I'm in a hurry," he would say. "I have to leave on business. Come back another day." But on any day, Fivel's answer would still be the same. It wasn't the right way, but it was his way. Each winter, the winds of Kislev blew cold and icy through the town. When the holiday of Hanukkah came, people would hurry home through the frosty air to light candles and say blessings. Children would laugh and play for hours at a time as the wooden top, the dreidel, spun around and round. Then out of the kitchen would come delicious latkes, potato pancakes. The children would eat, then count their Hanukkah gelt, like little copper coins, and back to the dreidel they would go. But this year, in one house in the town, there were no potato latkes and no sounds of children laughing. This was the house of Mendel the peddler. Things had gone so badly for him that Rivka could not buy even a single potato. On the first night of Hanukkah, Leah, Gittel, and Devora were walking home from the synagogue behind their father. On their way, they passed by the house of Fivel, the merchant. As they turned the corner, they found themselves right underneath the kitchen window. And what an aroma met their cold little noses. It was the smell of golden latkes just out of the pan floating out into the air. "Oh," they said, "let's smell the latkes." For the 3 hungry children, it was as if they had eaten a whole plateful. Then they hurried home. Inside their frail little hut, Rivka lit the first candle and recited the blessing over it. The wind whistled through the cracks in the wall and almost blew the candle out. But the children didn't mind the wind. They were remembering the rich smell of latkes at Fivel's window. Since there were no coins in the house, they played dreidel using small pebbles. Then, after kissing their parents goodnight, Leah went to the left side of the bed, Gittel went to the right and Devorah crept into the middle. They huddled under their blankets and went to sleep, smiling happily. Look, Rivka, said Mendel to his wife, the children are hungry, but they go to sleep smiling. What could this mean? Rivka only shook her head, but she wondered too. And so it went. On each of the first 7 nights of Hanukkah, the children made sure to find their way through the streets to Fivel's house. Then they would rush to the window and breathe in the aroma of latkes again. I could smell the latkes. I hope you can. And on each night, the children went to bed smiling. Finally, Mendel, Rivka said to each other, it must be a Hanukkah miracle, and spoke no more about it. Now it happened that on the 8th night, as the children stood beneath the window, the cook of the house looked outside and saw their faces. Master, mistress, come quickly. There are some beggars' children smelling our latkes. When Fivel came to the window and saw the children, he began to shout angrily, so the 3 of you have been stealing the smell of my latkes? I won't have Mendel the peddler's children coming to my house and taking the smell of my food right out from under my nose. Why, it's like you're eating for nothing. And the very next day, Fivel and his wife and children hauled Mendel and his wife and children to the house of the rabbi. When the news got out, all the townspeople went there to see what would happen. Rabbi Yonah was a kindly man, known through the town for his wisdom and fair judgments. He sat at his wooden desk, which was piled high with books and scrolls, and listened calmly as Fivel presented his complaint. Rabbi, Fivel cried angrily, these children have been smelling my latkes for the entire holiday. It's as if they took the food right out from under our noses. Well, said the Rabbi Yonah, and what do you want me to do about it? Rabbi, said Fivel, I don't mind if they take the smell, but at least they should pay for it. Yes, let them pay a fine. And how much do you propose this fine to be? Asked the rabbi ever so softly. What's right is right, says Fivel. I demand fair payment. Let them pay me 1 ruble for each time they stood under the window for the 8 nights of Hanukkah. That would be 8 rubles. Each 8 rubles, whispered the townspeople. Fivel the merchant wants Mendel the peddler to pay 8 rubles for the smell of his latkes. Mendel could hardly speak. But Rabbi, he said at last, I do not have 8 rubles to give. I barely have a kopeck to my name as it is. How can I pay this fine? Rabbi Yonah tapped his fingers on the desk for a moment. Then he looked through the window at the crowd that had gathered outside his house. He opened a door and spoke to all the townspeople. Friends and neighbors, he said, look in your pockets. Who has Hanukkah gills? Everyone, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and children, reached into their coats and trousers, even into their boots. One by one, they dropped their little copper coins into a small brown bag that the rabbi held out to them. After he had collected all the coins, he tied up the little bag with a string, and then Rabbi Yonah began to do a very strange thing. He began to shake the bag. He took the bag and he shook the bag 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, until the coins jingled like a little music box. The people looked at each other with wide eyes. Has our rabbi gone crazy? They whispered. What can he be doing? Finally, he stopped. Silence filled the room. The rabbi turned to Fivel and said, "There, my friend. What's right is right. You asked for fair payment and you have received it. We have paid for the smell of your Hanukkah latkes with the sound of Hanukkah gelt. Now go home and try to do good in the world." When he heard those words, Fivel turned around and walked slowly out the door with his face to the ground. As the townspeople walked home, they nodded to each other. How wise is our rabbi? After that day, any beggar who came to Fivel's house was given a good meal and a warm blanket to take home. The charity box in the synagogue was never empty, thanks to him. And every year, when the winds of Kislev blew through the town, Fivel and his wife and children, and Mendel and his wife and children would light the menorah, playing dreidel and eat plates and plates of potato latkes together. The end. So this is a great book, one, to end Hanukkah, but also as we enter this season and the solstice, it reminds us how the importance of sharing and giving to others. And I know so many of you are doing it right now. It has been such a hard year with COVID and everyone trying to adjust with school, and your parents are working super hard. So even you, whether you're 2 years old, 1 year old, 5 years old, 6 years old, my daughter's age, 10 years old, or my son's age 18 years old, when you see someone who's in need and who needs a little help, it's important for you to come together with your community or just to show empathy, love, and care. See, the rabbi was really wise because Fivel, he attempted to charge the kids for smelling the latkes. So what the rabbi did was say, well, how about we pay you because you heard the gelts or the coins? And so it was a fair trade. But what he learned from that lesson was that what he was trying to charge these kids for was ridiculous. And all he had to do was help them. So, like I said earlier, it's always important to help your friends. And when you see someone in need, the best thing to do is to show love, to show support, and to help them out, even if it's just sharing your bread. So I know all of you are going to do that this holiday season. And also make sure you share with your siblings and other family members. And even if you're doing it remotely, sometimes it's just okay to, call someone on the phone and share your love or your thanks, your gratitude. So I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow evening at 5:30 for us to read another story. But just remember the importance of sharing and caring for your neighbors and friends. Have a wonderful evening.